Ladies and gentlemen, there are people in this world who love with all their heart, who care so deeply that they forget themselves in the process. Maybe you are one of them. Maybe you are the person who always checks in, who always gives, who always sacrifices. But have you ever stopped and asked yourself, who is checking in on you? Loving deeply is beautiful. Caring deeply is a gift. But when that love and care come at the cost of your own well-being, it becomes a burden that you never deserve to carry. You see, the world teaches us that kindness is a virtue, that selflessness is noble, and yes, it is, but what the world forgets to tell you is that you too deserve the same love and care that you so freely give to others. Loving deeply is a beautiful thing. It is a gift, a rare quality that not everyone possesses. The ability to feel so much, to care with all your heart, to give without expecting anything in return. It makes you special. It makes you different. But what happens when that love comes at the cost of your own well-being? What happens when you give so much of yourself that there is nothing left for you? You see, the world glorifies selflessness. It tells you that to love is to sacrifice, that to care is to give endlessly. And so you grow up believing that the more you give, the more worthy you are. You think that love means putting others first, that caring deeply means making sure everyone else is happy, even if it drains you. But no one ever tells you where to draw the line. No one warns you that too much giving can leave you empty. No one prepares you for the moment when you realize that the love you so freely offer is not always returned in the same way. There are moments when you feel like you're holding the weight of the world on your shoulders. You listen when others need to talk. You show up when they need support. You make space for their feelings, their struggles, their emotions. But in doing so, you often push your own feelings aside. You convince yourself that your problems are not as important, that your pain can wait, that as long as everyone else is okay, you will be okay too. But that is not how it works. The more you ignore your own needs, the more they pile up inside you, silently building until one day you realize that you are drowning in an ocean of emotions that you never allowed yourself to feel. Loving deeply should not mean losing yourself in the process, but for many people, that is exactly what happens. They get so caught up in making sure others are happy that they forget to ask themselves if they are happy too. They become the ones who always adjust, always compromise, always sacrifice. And the painful truth is, the more you give, the more people expect from you. The more available you are, the less they appreciate it. The more you prioritize their needs, the less they notice yours. It is not that people are unkind, it is just that they get used to you being the strong one. They assume that you are fine, that you do not need the same care and attention that you give to them. And so you become the person who is always there for others, but when you need someone, you find yourself standing alone. You tell yourself that it is okay, that you are strong enough to handle it. You convince yourself that your worth comes from being needed, from being the one others can rely on. But deep down, there is a part of you that longs for the same love that you give so freely. There is a part of you that wishes someone would ask, how are you really feeling? There is a part of you that wants to be held, to be cared for, to be seen, not just as someone who gives, but as someone who also deserves to receive. The truth is, loving deeply is not the problem. The problem is when that love is one-sided, when it is given without limits, when it is poured out endlessly without being replenished. It is when you forget that you too are human, that you too have needs, that you too deserve kindness and understanding. It is when you believe that your love is only valuable when it is given away, rather than when it is shared in a way that also nurtures you. People will take as much as you give. They will lean on you. They will come to you for support. They will appreciate your presence until one day they don't. Until one day they move on and you are left wondering why you feel so exhausted, so drained, so empty. And that is when you realize that loving deeply is a gift, but not when it comes at the cost of your own well-being. People get used to your kindness. At first they appreciate it, they acknowledge it, they are grateful for the way you show up, for the way you care, for the way you go out of your way to make them feel loved and valued. But over time, something shifts. What was once seen as a generous act becomes an expectation. What was once acknowledged as an effort becomes something they take for granted. And before you know it, your kindness is no longer special, it is simply assumed. You never intended for this to happen. You gave because it felt natural, because it felt right. You wanted to be there for people, to support them, to bring comfort and joy to their lives. You never kept score, never expected anything in return. You just loved, cared, and showed up. And maybe in the beginning they noticed. They thanked you, they told you how much it meant to them. But as time went on, the gratitude faded. The appreciation became silence. Your kindness became something they no longer saw as an effort, but as a given. The reality is, when you consistently put others first, they start believing it is your role. They start assuming that no matter what, you will be there. They stop wondering if you are tired, if you need help, if you have struggles of your own. They assume you are fine because you never complain. They assume you are strong because you never ask for anything. They assume you do not need the same care and attention you give to them. And because they assume, they stop giving. They stop checking in. They stop noticing the effort you put in every single day. And then one day something happens. Maybe you are too exhausted to show up the way you always do. Maybe you need a moment for yourself, a break, a little bit of the same kindness you have always given to others. And suddenly you realize that people are not used to giving it back. They are not used to worrying about you. They are not used to offering the same energy, the same love, the same care that you have poured into them. And it is not that they do not care. It is just that they have never had to, because you made it look easy, because you never let them see when you were struggling, because you never asked for anything in return. It is a painful realization. You start to wonder if your kindness was ever truly valued or if it was only convenient. You start to question whether people truly appreciated you or if they simply enjoyed what you had to offer. You begin to see that the love you gave so freely was not always reciprocated in the same way. And maybe, just maybe, you begin to feel used, not because people intended to use you, but because they never thought they had to give back. The more you give, the more people take. The more available you are, the more they expect you to be. The more you say yes, the less they consider that you might want to say no. It is a cycle that continues until you reach a point where you are no longer giving from a place of joy, but from a place of obligation. Where your kindness no longer feels like a choice, but a responsibility. Where you feel more exhausted than appreciated, more drained than fulfilled. You tell yourself that this is just how you are. That you cannot change the way you love, the way you care, the way you show up for people. And maybe that is true. Maybe kindness is in your nature, but what you must understand is that kindness without boundaries will always lead to exhaustion. Love without balance will always leave you empty. Care without reciprocity will always make you feel unappreciated. You start to see the pattern in your life, how people walk in and immediately feel safe with you, how they trust you with their worries, their fears, their struggles, how they lean on you without hesitation, knowing that you will always be there. But then you start to notice something else. How easily they forget that you too are human. How rarely they ask if you are okay. How effortlessly they take your kindness without a second thought. And slowly it begins to hurt. Not because you want something in return, but because it makes you feel unseen. You wonder if they would still be there if you stopped giving, if you stopped checking in, stop making the effort, stop showing up the way you always do. Would they notice? Would they reach out? Would they care the way you have cared for them? And the thought of that answer scares you, because deep down you know that some people would not. Some people would simply move on, finding someone else to pour into them the way you once did. Some people would not even realize what they lost, because to them, your kindness was never something to be valued. It was just something they expected. You deserve the same love and care that you give to others. It sounds simple, but for some reason it is the hardest thing to accept. You spend your days making sure everyone around you is okay. You listen to their struggles, you comfort them in their pain, you celebrate their victories, and you make sure they never feel alone. You remind them of their worth, you lift them up when they are down, and you never hesitate to go the extra mile to show them they matter. But when it comes to you, when it comes to your own heart, your own needs, your own emotions, you hesitate. You tell yourself that you can wait. You convince yourself that your needs are not as important, that your emotions can be put on hold, that as long as the people you love are happy, you will be fine. Somewhere along the way, you started believing that your love was meant only to be given away, that your role was to heal, to fix, to support, to care, but not to receive. Maybe it is because no one ever taught you that you were worthy of the same love. Maybe it is because every time you tried to express your needs, they were ignored, dismissed, or overshadowed by someone else's pain. Maybe it is because you became so used to being strong for others that you forgot how to be soft for yourself. Whatever the reason, you grow into someone who gives endlessly, yet struggles to accept even the smallest act of kindness in return. You have a heart that loves deeply, but do you ever turn that love inward? Do you ever pause and ask yourself if you are okay? Do you ever look in the mirror and remind yourself that you too deserve to be cared for? The love you give is beautiful, it is powerful, it is rare, but it was never meant to be one-sided. It was never meant to be something you pour into everyone else while leaving yourself empty. You were never meant to be the one who always gives and never receives. Think about the way you speak to the people you love. Think about the way you comfort them, the way you reassure them, the way you remind them that they are enough. You would never let them believe they're unworthy. You would never tell them that their needs don't matter. You would never let them feel like they are alone in this world. So why do you do that to yourself? Why do you silence your own pain? Why do you keep pushing yourself to be strong when all you want is to be held? You tell yourself that it is fine, that you do not need what you give to others. You convince yourself that as long as you are needed, you have a purpose, but deep down there is a longing, a quiet, unspoken yearning for someone to love you the way you love, for someone to see you, to care for you, to hold you in the same way you have held others. And yet, every time someone offers you kindness, you struggle to accept it. You brush it off, you tell them you are okay, you convince yourself that you do not want to be a burden. But love is not a burden. Care is not a privilege reserved for others. It is something you deserve just as much as anyone else. You have spent so much time making sure others feel safe, but have you ever given yourself that same security? Have you ever allowed yourself to rest without guilt? Have you ever let yourself be vulnerable without fear? You keep telling yourself that one day someone will love you the way you love, that one day someone will see your heart and give you the same energy, the same effort, the same care. But the truth is that day starts with you, because no one else will treat you the way you truly deserve until you show them how. No one else will love you fully until you believe you are worthy of that love. You teach people how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. If you keep giving without limits, without boundaries, without ever expecting anything in return, people will assume you do not need anything. If you keep silencing your needs, they will believe you have none. If you keep being the strong one, they will never see the cracks beneath the surface. And then you will wonder why no one loves you the way you love them, why no one cares for you the way you care, why no one stays when you need them most. But it is not because you are unworthy, it is because you have never demanded the same love that you so freely give away. It is time to remember that your heart is not just meant to heal others. It is meant to be nurtured too. It is time to stop waiting for someone to love you the way you love and start showing yourself that love first. It is time to believe that you are just as deserving of kindness, of patience, of understanding, of gentleness. It is time to stop settling for being the one who always gives and never receives, because you too deserve the same love and care that you so selflessly pour into the world. No one will check on you unless you start checking on yourself first. You have spent so much time being there for others that you have forgotten what it feels like to be held, to be asked if you are okay, to be cared for in the way that you so naturally care for everyone else. You are the person people turn to when they are struggling, the one they call when life feels overwhelming, the one who listens, who comforts, who gives without hesitation. You make sure everyone else is okay, but when was the last time someone asked if you were? The truth is, people assume you are fine because you have never shown them otherwise. You have always been the strong one, the reliable one, the person who never asked for anything in return. And because you never ask, they never think to offer. It is not that they do not care, it is that they have never had to. They have grown so used to you being the one who carries the weight that they do not stop to consider that you too might need someone to carry you. There have been moments when you wished someone would notice, when you hoped that maybe, just maybe, someone would look at you and see the exhaustion in your eyes, when you wanted someone to sit with you and say, you don't have to be strong all the time, but those moments passed and no one came. Not because they did not love you, but because they never realized that you needed them to. And so you convinced yourself that this is just how it is, that you are meant to be the giver, the healer, the one who stands tall even when your own heart is breaking. But what if you started checking on yourself the way you check on others? What if you started asking yourself the questions you so easily ask them? What if you stopped waiting for someone else to notice your pain and started acknowledging it yourself? You spend so much time making sure everyone else feels heard, but do you ever truly listen to yourself? Do you ever sit with your own thoughts, your own emotions, your own struggles, and give them the same attention you give to everyone else? Tomorrow, you have become so good at putting yourself last that you do not even realize you are doing it. You wake up and think about what needs to be done for others. You carry the burdens of those around you as if they are your own. You give and give until there is nothing left, and then you wonder why you feel so empty. But the truth is, you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot keep giving when you have nothing left for yourself. There is a part of you that fears what will happen if you stop. If you stop being the one who always reaches out, if you stop being the one who always makes the effort, if you stop being the one who always says yes, you worry that people will forget you, that they will not notice your absence, that they will not check in the way you have always checked in on them. And maybe that is the hardest truth to face, that some people will not. That some people have only stayed because of what you offer, not because of who you are. But the people who truly love you, the ones who truly care, they will still be there. And the only way you will know who those people are is by giving yourself permission to stop carrying everything alone, by allowing yourself to be vulnerable, by allowing yourself to ask for help, by allowing yourself to be cared for in the way you have always cared for others. Because the right people will not run when you need them. The right people will not leave when you finally say, I am not okay. But before anyone else can show up for you, you have to show up for yourself. You have to start treating yourself the way you treat the people you love. You have to stop waiting for someone else to give you permission to rest, to heal, to take care of yourself. Because no one else will do it for you. No one else will check on you in the way that you truly need unless you start doing it first. It is not selfish to put yourself first. It is not wrong to take care of your own heart before you take care of everyone else. It is not weakness to admit that you too need love, support, and understanding. You have spent your life making sure everyone else feels safe, but now it is time to make yourself feel safe, to ask yourself what you need, to listen to your own heart, to be as gentle with yourself as you are with others. Because at the end of the day, no one will check on you the way you truly deserve unless you start checking on yourself first. You cannot keep setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. It sounds like a simple truth, but how often do you ignore it? How many times have you drained yourself completely just to make sure someone else was okay? How many times have you silenced your own exhaustion, your own emotions, your own needs, just so you wouldn't disappoint the people around you? You tell yourself it's fine, that you can handle it, that as long as everyone else is happy, you'll figure out a way to manage. But deep down, there's a part of you that is tired, a part of you that is aching, a part of you that wonders when it will finally be your turn to rest. You have a heart that loves deeply, that cares intensely, that wants nothing more than to be there for the people you love. And because of that, you stretch yourself thin. You say yes when you want to say no. You show up even when you are running on empty. You carry the weight of other people's emotions as if they are your own, and you convince yourself that it's just the way you are meant to be. But at what cost? What happens when you give so much that there's nothing left for yourself? What happens when you become so used to putting yourself last that you forget what it feels like to put yourself first? It's a dangerous habit, this constant self-sacrifice. At first, it feels noble. It feels like love. It feels like you are doing the right thing by being there, by giving, by making sure no one ever feels alone. But over time, something shifts. The exhaustion settles in. The resentment begins to build. The weight of carrying everyone else's struggles starts to feel unbearable. And yet, you don't stop, because you have convinced yourself that if you do, you will be letting people down. But here is what you need to understand. Love is not meant to be one-sided. Care is not meant to drain you. Support is not meant to be something you give endlessly without ever receiving in return. If you are the only one pouring, if you are the only one holding everything together, if you are the only one making the effort, then it is not love. It is self-sacrifice. And you were never meant to lose yourself just to make sure others are okay. You spend so much time worrying about how others feel, but do you ever stop to think about how you feel? Do you ever ask yourself if you're truly happy, if you're truly at peace, if you're truly okay? Or are you so busy making sure everyone else is taken care of that you have forgotten how to take care of yourself? The truth is, you cannot be everything for everyone. No matter how much you love them, no matter how much you want to be there, no matter how deeply you care, you cannot carry the entire world on your shoulders. And yet, you try. You keep pushing yourself beyond your limits. You keep ignoring the exhaustion, the stress, the emotional toll it takes on you. You keep convincing yourself that it's okay, that you can handle it, that you don't need as much as everyone else does. But you do. You need rest. You need space. You need care. You need the same love that you give so effortlessly to everyone around you. There comes a point where you have to ask yourself, is this love or is this self-destruction? Because love should not leave you feeling empty. Love should not make you feel like you are running on fumes. Love should not require you to sacrifice yourself over and over again with nothing in return. The people who truly love you will not let you burn yourself out just to keep them comfortable. They will not expect you to give beyond your capacity. They will not take and take without ever thinking about what you need in return. But people will only treat you the way you allow them to. If you continue to give without limits, they will continue to take. If you never express your own needs, they will assume you do not have any. If you never set boundaries, they will never think twice before crossing them. Not because they do not care, but because they have never had to. Because you have made it look easy. Because you have never allowed yourself to say, this is too much for me. And that is where everything must change. You have to start valuing yourself as much as you value others. You have to stop seeing self-care as selfishness. You have to stop believing that your worth is only measured by what you can give. Because you are not just someone who exists to support others. You are a person who deserves support too. You tell yourself that people need you, that without you they will struggle, that you cannot walk away even when you are exhausted because they rely on you. But have you ever thought about what would happen if you finally allowed yourself to step back? If you finally let go of the belief that you have to be the one who always holds everything together? Would the world fall apart? Or would it simply adjust? The people who truly value you will understand. The ones who love you will not let you drown in your own self-sacrifice. The ones who genuinely care will remind you that your well-being matters too. But the only way to know who those people are is to stop setting yourself on fire just to keep them warm. Stop pouring from an empty cup. Stop making excuses for why everyone else's needs come before your own. You deserve the same love you give, the same care, the same patience, the same effort. You deserve to rest. You deserve to be supported. You deserve to be taken care of in the way that you have always taken care of others. And it is time to start believing that. You deserve the same love that you so freely give to others. But how often do you actually give it to yourself? How many times have you poured your heart into people who never stop to ask if you were okay and never stop to ask if you were okay? How many times have you made sacrifices for those who wouldn't do the same for you? You have spent so long showing up for everyone else, making sure they are loved, supported, and cared for, that you have forgotten to do the same for yourself. And maybe you don't even realize it. Maybe it has become so normal for you to put yourself last that it does not even feel like a choice anymore. You are the person who checks in on others, who makes sure they never feel alone, who listens when they need to be heard. You make sure they feel valued, that they know their worth, that they never doubt whether they are important. You love deeply and you love without hesitation. But when was the last time you did that for yourself? When was the last time you looked in the mirror and reminded yourself that you are worthy of that same love? When was the last time you asked yourself what you needed instead of only thinking about what others needed from you? You deserve to be loved the way you love, with effort, with sincerity, with patience and kindness, with understanding and consistency. You deserve people who check in on you just because they care, not because they need something. You deserve people who stay, who don't just take what they need and leave. You deserve relationships that feel like home, not like a battlefield where you are constantly fighting to be seen, to be heard, to be appreciated. But here's the hard truth. The only way you will ever receive that kind of love is if you stop settling for anything less, if you stop accepting the bare minimum, if you stop making excuses for people who continuously disappoint you. You cannot keep giving endless chances to those who have already shown you that they will not change. You cannot keep waiting for people to love you better, to care more, to finally see your worth when they have ignored it time and time again. The love you want, the love you deserve is out there, but you will never find it if you are too busy holding on to those who do not deserve a place in your heart. You will never find it if you keep justifying mistreatment, if you keep lowering your standards, if you keep believing that love means enduring pain. Love should not leave you exhausted. Love should not leave you questioning your worth. Love should not make you feel like you are too much or not enough at the same time. You have to stop breaking your own heart just to keep people in your life. Stop ignoring red flags because you are afraid of losing someone. Stop making yourself small just to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. Stop believing that if you just try harder, if you just love more, if you just give a little extra, then maybe things will be different. Because real love does not require you to prove yourself. It does not require you to beg, to chase, to constantly fight for someone's attention or effort. You have spent so much time giving, loving, and showing up for others that you have forgotten what it feels like to be on the receiving end of that love. And maybe you have convinced yourself that you do not need it, that as long as the people around you are happy, then you will be okay. But that is not true. You need love too. You need support. You need people who pour into you, who make you feel safe, who remind you that you do not always have to be the strong one. You deserve relationships where love is not one-sided, where care is given, not just taken, where your emotions are valued, not dismissed. You deserve people who do not just come to you when they need something, but who show up for you when you need them. You deserve friendships that do not feel like obligations. You deserve love that feels secure, not like something you constantly have to fight for. But the only way to have that is to start choosing yourself, to stop settling, to stop accepting less than you deserve just because you're afraid of being alone. Being alone is not the worst thing. Staying in spaces where you are not valued, staying in relationships that drain you, staying around people who only take and never give, that is what will break you. That is what will leave you feeling empty. In my 20s, I had to be willing to walk away from anything that does not serve you, from people who do not appreciate you, from relationships that do not bring you peace. It will not be easy. It will hurt. It will feel like losing a part of yourself. But in the end, you are not losing anything that was ever truly meant for you. You are simply making space for something better. And as you do that, you must also start treating yourself the way you treat others. You must start giving yourself the kindness, the patience, the love that you so freely give to everyone else. You must learn to check in on yourself, to ask yourself what you need, to remind yourself that your feelings matter too. You must learn that self-love is not selfish, it is necessary. You spend so much time making sure everyone else is okay, but it is time to make sure you are okay too. You give love so beautifully, but it is time to receive it too. And it starts with you, with choosing yourself, with believing that you are enough, with understanding that you deserve more than what you have been accepting. The love you want is out there, but first you must give it to yourself.